Black Panther comes out this weekend, and all signs point to it opening huge and blowing audiences away. In this video, I want to break down the current Rotten Tomatoes scores and what some critics are saying about the movie. Is it possible that Black Panther will be the best MCU film to date? Well, let's talk about it. What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. If you love comic book movies the way I do, subscribe to this channel. Going to be doing all sorts of coverage of these movies for the rest of time. Oh, real quick, shameless plug. I'm actually starting a show 5 days a week out of a sweet comic book shop. So keep an eye out for that. Going to be starting next week. Probably talk about Black Panther during it, but that's enough for my shameless plug. Now let's shout out Melissa Seyfried, who got the nerd card question correct in my latest Game of Thrones plus Star Wars video. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to Game of Thrones, so shout out to you, Melissa. There will be another nerd card question at the end of this video. All right, let's talk some Black Panther. So this is crazy, guys. This is a highly rated film on Rotten Tomatoes. It currently sits at 98%, and there's literally only 3 rotten scores on this thing. It's kind of incredible, actually. So I wanted to go over this, talk about what some of these people are saying, what are some things that maybe you should look out for in the film. We'll talk about what the haters are saying, and then we'll finish off the video by me explaining how I think the movie could end up being the best MCU movie, period. So a lot of the people that are talking positively about the movie on Rotten Tomatoes are talking about Ryan Coogler as a director, basically explaining that the world he builds is super thrilling, super dope. It has a Shakespearean kind of a draw to it. There's a lot of secretive aspects, and I think overall, if you look at the other 2 movies that Ryan Coogler has done, you just gotta know the guy is incredibly talented. Plus, I mean, look at the pedigree of the MCU. Feige doesn't let anybody do these movies unless they have a vision for them and unless they can really depend on that person to create a really good movie. On top of all of that, and this is something I have continued to talk about, but this is very similar to what happened with Patty Jenkins and Wonder Woman. I believe Ryan Coogler and everybody involved with Black Panther was just really aware of what a big impact this movie was going to make and how culturally important this was to Black audiences all around the globe. So I think when you take the talent of Coogler, the awareness of what this time and space is like out there in the world, I think you've got a recipe for absolute dopeness, and that is what a lot of the critics are saying as well. They really sing his praises, and I'm very happy to hear that. Another big thing that a lot of the critics are talking about is the actors and the actresses that are in this movie. So of course, Chadwick Boseman, who has to play this sort of regal king, very kind of composed, and I thought he did a great job in Civil War, but now we're gonna get to see his full range as he'll be hanging out with his sister. That'll be a little bit more exciting. He's gonna have to be empathetic, but also still really hard edged when trying to lead his people, and apparently he just absolutely nails it. But they are saying that Michael B. Jordan is so good as the villain, Eric Killmonger, that he literally steals some of the shine away from Chadwick Boseman. To me, that's totally okay, especially when you consider the Shakespearean aspect and some of the themes that I think they're going to be playing with in the movie. It is central that you can empathize with the villain and that you can accept them, but also kind of hate them. I've seen a lot of interviews with Michael B. Jordan. He went absolutely in on this role. He and Ryan Coogler, of course, worked together in Creed, so they're very comfortable with each other. And man, the Eric Killmonger character is probably the thing that I am most excited to see in the movie, and it's being praised very highly by the critics. Now, I also want to talk about the ladies of the film, because apparently they just totally steal many scenes, and unlike some other MCU movies, the females in this movie really feel like they're their own characters. They're really just established. The Dora Milaje are apparently completely badass, not just when fighting, but when interacting with Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, and everybody else in the movie. So, I mean, particularly excited to see how these ladies, especially Shuri, I want to see how this character is portrayed. I think Shuri's going to play a big role in the MCU after Phase 4, so keep an eye out on Shuri and keep an eye out on these badass females in this movie. Now, we've got to talk about what some of the haters are saying, and honestly, these reviews are kind of ridiculous when you look at the Rotten reviews on Rotten Tomato. But the two things that they are saying is, one, that there's too much dialogue and not enough action, and this kind of goes back to that Shakespearean aspect. Now look, personally, I mean, when you read something like that, it does sound bad, right? Not enough action, too much dialogue. But I think considering the context and just how visually interesting the world of Wakanda is going to end up being, I think I'm going to be perfectly okay with the amount of dialogue that we get. But it is worth noting that that was a problem that almost all of the negative reviews talked about. The other thing they talked about was how it was predictable. Now, they're probably talking about, you know, that the hero wins and these other Shakespearean themes that get played out. And look, it's a comic book movie, so you sort of know how it's going to end. And look, I'm going to repeat a Stan Lee quote that I always talk about, but he says, "The formula for a great comic book story is a scenario in which you cannot see how the hero will win or triumph, but you know that they will simply because they are the hero." So that kind of a journey as a viewer is really what it is all about. And yeah, maybe parts of this movie are going to end up being predictable, but I really can't see it being so bad that it drags it down. And I mean, honestly, when you look at a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, you're not really looking at something that was a big problem. So, but to be fair, that is what some of the haters did end up saying. Now, quickly, I want to talk about what could actually make this movie the best movie in the MCU. And I have to draw a parallel to what I consider to be the best movie in the MCU currently. That would be Winter Soldier. The reason I think The Winter Soldier is the best MCU movie is because it accomplishes two things. One, it is a movie so good on its own that if you stripped away the MCU and even stripped away the comic book characters from the movie, you're still looking at an incredible espionage action film. It is literally so good on its own merits that it stands among some of the other genre films out there unrelated to comic books, and I'm talking some of the best of all time. And that is just a credit to the Russo brothers and what they were able to accomplish in that film. But the other reason that that movie is the best in the MCU is because it really significantly mattered and affected the fabric of that shared universe. So it's kind of a paradoxical thing to say, right? The formula is it has to be able to stand on its own and be completely and wholly good while also being integral to the wider story and the tapestry of the shared universe. And so that's the exact formula that Black Panther needs to replicate for me personally to be considered the best of the MCU. So it more or less has to be a masterpiece on its own, but also have a deep impact on what is happening in the MCU and how we view the world of Earth on the MCU stage. So that is kind of what I think it will take, and it's very possible that Black Panther will do that. I'm excited to check it out for myself, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Are you pretty pumped, especially upon hearing some of the things the critics said on Rotten Tomatoes? And what do you think about my metrics for it being the best MCU film of all time? Very, very interested in what all of you have to say in the comment section below. All right, let's check that nerd card really quickly. And this is sort of a softball, but I want to know, what is the name of the comic book villain that Andy Serkis will be playing in the Black Panther movie? Famous Black Panther villain. Andy Serkis is dope. Can't wait to see more from him in this movie. But what is the name of that character? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day. See ya!